What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. OG here, and I have cooked up something special for you, and I had some help. Shout out to OGFC member Boomfa, because what we are cooking today was his idea, and it will help a ton of people, especially in FC, but really in all football games, and even further than that, in all games in general in some capacity. But in FC, it is their main issue, and we are talking about lag, or server delay, or command delay, or whatever you want to call it. And I truly don't know the tech terms behind any of this. I just know it makes the gaming experience truly terrible. Unless you are one of those loser rats that wants anything that can take away from actual football. Anything that can take away the fact that your opponent is better than you so you can compete and win in a football game without really having skill or playing football. It's ridiculous, but these type of people exist in the world, and a lot of times when there's this laggy nonsense where your command delay is just out of this world, a lot of times it's when you're playing these rats. For whatever reason, if they're causing it, if they're not, I don't know. It doesn't really matter, because this is what we have to deal with if we play FC, which even with this nonsense, FC is still the best football game. So if you play FC and you've been playing FC, then you no doubt know what I'm talking about. However, if you are coming from UFL or eFootball, then this is new to you for sure, because in my experience with UFL and eFootball, they don't have this, right? It was the one amazing part of playing those two football games when I took my hiatus from FC before the big patch, right? I walked away early on. It was around December, and the best part of UFL when it first came out, all the way up till now really, and the best part of eFootball in my experience there was that I never really had lag. There was a few times in both games, and it was a terrible experience when it did happen, but it was so few and far between that you could never compare it to the constant nonsense you have to deal with in regards to this issue within FC. But because it is still by far and away the best football game, much better than UFL, much better than eFootball, we are going to deal with it. And this is how you're going to do that. Now, this isn't some magic trick that is going to guarantee that you win in these games, where all of a sudden, instead of seeing that red bar, yellow bar, just going into the game and knowing your players are going to be heavy, or you have that command delay and thinking, this is going to be terrible, I'm automatically going to lose. It's not just going to turn to, wow, I love this, I'm automatically going to win. This is just several ways that will allow you to not only compete, but increase your chances greatly of winning. As you can see, one prime example here, and I could show you several others from my 4 championships in PlayStation tournaments just from today, which, if you've played PlayStation tournaments, you know, just like in the FC Pro events, that it is a notorious setup for laggy, delayed games. And here's exactly what I did to win not only this game, but all the games leading to those 4 championships. Number 1, this is something that I do as a precursor. I do this no matter what, just so I don't have to pause and plug my controller in only when the gameplay is really bad. So I took a USB Type-C cable, right? USB on one end, Type-C on the other, plugged it into the back of my PlayStation 5, and then plugged the Type-C end into my controller. Then before even going into the game, I went into my PlayStation settings, then into accessories, and then into controller, where I scrolled down to communication method, and then selected use USB cable instead of Bluetooth. And what this does is ensure that my controller, when communicating with my PlayStation, is going through that USB cable instead of wireless, which reduces command delay. Now, there's nothing that I can show you in order to convince you that this reduces command delay by X amount, right? But I can just say that many players swear by this, and it is better to utilize in case it does help and it's just not noticeable, as opposed to not using it and maybe it is costing you, which you wouldn't even know. And that ties into a point I wanted to go over with you, which is that this delay or lag comes in varying levels, right? And it could change from game to game, from week to week, month to month, or minute to minute. Within one game, you could have a great connection to start, which many times happens to me, and then as the game progresses, the connection gets worse, or sometimes it might be terrible, then it gets good, then it ends bad again. You just never know, and so you have to be prepared and be able to read when this is happening. Now, a couple telltale signs are if you cannot get passes or shots off that you normally would get off, and you feel like your opponent is just all over you, more so than normal. Or defensively, you feel like you were always a step behind. Your opponent can just pass the ball like they're 06 Barcelona, and you never can seem to get a tackle off, which typically means that all of your movements, all of your commands are delayed. So when you enter the tackle button, it is not going off at the right time, and your opponent just zips by you, and it feels like you missed a tackle, but really the command didn't go off in time. And so it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. This is for the lower levels of lag, which still can have a tremendous effect on you and can cost you games that you otherwise would have won. The more serious, laggy, delayed games, you really don't need any telltale signs because it's so obvious. But in those close calls, make sure you're reading these signs and make sure once you see this, you follow these steps. Now, considering we went over number 1, which was plugging your controller into the USB from the back of your PlayStation. If it's Xbox, you're going to have to look up what to do because I'm not sure. You just want to make sure you have your controller wired in, not using Bluetooth. And last little note for PlayStation, follow my instructions exactly. I said USB in the back of your PlayStation. Do not use the USB in the front. I have no idea why. That's just an instruction, so might as well follow it. If not, it may not work correctly for whatever reason. Moving on to number 2, this is a tactical change. You are going to want to pause and then put your defense on deep, which is a line depth that I would never typically suggest. However, high is definitely a no-no, and even balance is not good enough because you can't be reacting at all. Meaning whether it's a long ball that your opponent tries to play, you can no longer switch your center back and expect to get back in time so you don't get beat on a lob through ball, and you can no longer chase down your opponent and defend properly. They will cut you to pieces. Your only hope is to be behind the ball already and use your numbers in defense to intercept passes or so that your opponent will dribble into you, similar to that ratty park the bus style that many players use on a regular basis because they have no skill at all and they can't defend, which in your case, you know that you can defend. It's just not possible in this type of gameplay. Now moving on to number 3, which has to do with player movement. So whether you're on counter or balance or even short passing, it doesn't really matter what that setting is because your players won't be moving like normal in good gameplay. And so you have to manually make runs at all times, whether you're calling a player 2, sending them, or the best way to ensure that your player makes the right run is to use player lock. Now the catch is that in these type of laggy, delayed games, it is extremely hard many times to pull off player lock. You'll try to attempt it and it just won't go off, or it will be so delayed that your opponent is able to steal the ball right off your foot before you're able to do anything. But the thing is, they will steal it off your foot many times anyways, whether you use player lock or not, because you were just so delayed. So, whether it's to pull off player lock or just to keep possession so you can eventually build up the ball and create chances to score goals, which you need to win, you're going to want to use a spread out formation. If you use one already, then great. You don't have to make any changes there. If for some reason you're a narrow player, maybe a 4-1-2-1-2 narrow, or even sometimes a 4-2-3-1 narrow, which is what I'm using, you might need to go to a spread formation. So have one ready, because the more space you have in between passes means the more time you'll have to make the next pass before your opponent closes you down. And that leads us to number 4, which is how to score your chances. Because one of the most frustrating things, I mean, it's all frustrating, but one of the most frustrating is when you finally get that chance, you're getting ready to shoot, and your player takes forever and a day. So either A, the defender comes and takes the ball off your foot before the shot gets off, or you get the shot off and the goalkeeper has time to eat a sandwich and then move right into the path that you were literally telegraphing, waiting for your shot to go off. So you obviously want to ensure that you have enough space to take your shot. If you have that space and you take the shot, you don't want to be predictable on the direction. Like I said, the goalkeeper will have so much time to react, they'll move, and so you want to shoot in the least likely direction that you would normally shoot, because the goalkeeper is going to start moving towards that direction. If you're facing that right post, and almost always the player is going to go towards that right post, then go to your left. If you're facing the left and it looks like any player would finesse that into the left, then shoot it into the right, which obviously is going to take a lot of practice because your muscle memory is telling you to do the opposite of what you're going to have to do in these laggy, delayed games. If you do this, you will greatly increase the amount of times you score in these situations. Again, nothing is more frustrating than finally getting a shot, which is so hard to come by in these types of games, and then your player takes all the time in the world before actually executing the shot, and the keeper is able to easily move and make the save that you know they normally wouldn't have saved. But what about the many times in which the defenders are there to steal the ball off your foot before you even get a shot? Considering it is extremely hard to find extra space in these type of games. It is hard enough to build up the ball. I mean, everything is more difficult, let's be honest. So when you finally get the ball into that attack and there's defenders all around and you're looking to make that killer pass to create the chance, try to get a quick shot off. If possible, try to get into a tap-in situation. For instance, running down the flank and going inline for a drop back pass, leading to a one-time tap-in finish, which honestly is going to be the most efficient way in these type of games to get a scoring opportunity that you truly can finish. But if this exact play isn't on, or you end up creating a chance in another way or getting at least into the danger zone and you could possibly create a chance before shooting the ball and risking the defender taking it off your foot because of the delay in getting the shot off, think about taking that extra pass or going that extra distance in order to make the shot quicker and easier to score, so there's just not a lot of time in the wind-up, if you will. So in summary, if you follow everything I discussed to a T, you will no doubt be in much better shape in these sort of games. Now, like I said earlier, there's no guaranteed win, and there's outside factors, with the biggest one being the skill level of your opponent, as well as are they experiencing the same amount of lag or delay as you. It's not always equal, despite many people thinking that. It is absolutely a myth. Sometimes both players are experiencing this nonsense, sometimes only one, and sometimes one player is experiencing it to a different degree than the other player. All of these things factor in on top of the skill level. Now, with that being said, all of the games in which you have lost in the past and you knew you were much better than the player, but the lag or delay cost you the game, I can assure you those games you can no doubt win if you implement the things that I discussed in this video. So, with that being said, let's not let this throw us off our grind. Let's not let this take away from our fun. And make sure, if you are crazy enough not to be subscribed already, you do that right now. Like the video and comment how these changes have helped you. Join the Discord. The link is in my YouTube bio. You can also give your feedback there. I will see you on the next one. Peace out.